Good morning. My name is Ben Wagner. I'm one of the operations section chiefs with Northern Rockies Team 6. Today is July 16th. This is your morning operational update. And before I dive in with the specifics, I wanted to point something out on the map that might look a little new from what we've been using. You'll see all these parentheses scattered around the map. And these establish our division breaks. So if you think of this whole fire like a pizza, we go in and we carve up the fire into individual divisions because it's too much for one person to manage. And so between these parentheses, like right here would be Division Bravo between these, that allows us to assign one supervisor to that piece of the fire. And it really mitigates the amount of people and real estate that person is responsible for supervising and coming up with plans for. So I'm going to try and stick to the local names so that all of you know where I'm talking about, but I wanted to point out, just as a method of how we manage large fires like this, what those parentheses mean, and I'll do my best to keep from slipping up and referring to that language and stick with what all of you are familiar with. So let's dive into an operational update here. The good news is we are increasing containment. Firefighters are making really good progress, especially up on the north end up here. Up by Greenwood and Wetmore, you'll notice more black on the map. So good stroke of business there, increasing containment. We're continuing to mop up and secure those control lines. Moving east into the east side of the fire, Kilo Oscar there. Again, adding black, increasing containment. Firefighters are still out working that black edge directly, finding heat, putting it out. We've got a structure group that's in there continuing doing that same thing around Beulah, doing some road improvement up to the north, cutting hazard trees. And it's very similar traffic down around into the community of Rye, continuing just to mop, secure, and patrol, and do some preparation on a potential fuel break just to the west of Rye against the wilderness back in there. The real activity and our highest priority areas are going to be on the west side of the fire. So up here northwest of Rye and around the Isabel Lake 165 area, that's priority one. We're really trying hard to prevent that fire from crossing any closer to Rye. So you'll see an increase in activity there as that fire is continuing to burn and progress to the north, throwing spot fires out ahead of itself. And so we're really working hard on getting our control lines established and maintained and refined. So improving those lines as we get them in, removing, green materials, so unburned materials from the side of the line, adding depth, trying to get some mop up there where we have black edge. So, and it's just really, really rough country. So it takes our firefighters a lot of time, but they're working hard here in Division Bravo. And then the same traffic up here right by the 165 corridor. We're slowly, as I mentioned yesterday, easing some fire along the dozer line that's protecting that community with the intention of getting hard black edge established so that any fire up here doesn't have the opportunity to run down and threaten that control line. So as we do that, we're mopping that fire edge up and patrolling and checking all the structures. So folks are doing really good work. Again, it's just a lot of work. Moving up here on the west side of the fire, St. Charles Peak, not a lot of activity there yesterday, and our firefighters are just continuing to advance our primary and secondary lines. And you may hear me say things like we're refining plans or continuing to plan, and that's because that's in our nature, right? Once we have one plan, we want to have a backup plan to that plan. So we're always thinking ahead and anticipating if there's changes, we're being proactive and not reactive. Moving on up into the Mingus Ranch, Round Top Mountain area, you'll probably see some activity in there. You can see on the map there's a bunch of dozer lines. We've got some of these areas where there's not black all the way down to those dozer lines, and so we're intentionally bringing fire inside those dozer lines to fill in and clean up that unburned fuel. You'll hear me mention this a lot. We really don't like unburned fuel between our control lines and the main fire because we don't want to provide a runway for that fire to impact our control lines. So we're using drones at night to add fire in there and crews in the daytime. And then when we get that fire out to those control lines, we're mopping it up. So you will see continued fire activity in there, but it's helping us right now, and we're using that in a slow and methodical fashion. So that really should get us all the way around. I do want to mention we have a night shift out there. They're the unsung heroes of this fire. They often get overlooked. And so we've got folks out 24/7, keeping eyes on this, continuing to pick up the work from the day shift and advance it into the night. And just want to thank the community for your support. And we're here for the long haul.